I was the orphan Alistair Blackwood rescued from St. Jude's home for 8 years. I was his daughter in name. In my last life, I mistook his gentle care for something deeper. When he brought Isabel Thorne home and announced their engagement, my desperate words caused a scandal in New York society. All I received in return was a cold dismissal and a forced stay in a hospital, where the treatments ended my life. The day after I died, he gave Isabel the wedding of the decade, and I was remembered as the ungrateful girl who tried to destroy her guardian's happiness. I've been reborn, sent back to the day I first asked him if we could ever be more than father and daughter. The man across from me, peeling a shrimp from my plate, paused. His fingers stilled. "What did you say last time?" Back then, I'd missed the disgust in his eyes. Now I could almost smell the burned scent of memory. A violent shiver ran through me. I forced a smile. "Dad, you wanted me to grow up, right? I can peel my own shrimp. No need to trouble yourself." Alistair's hands froze midair. In 8 years, this was the first time I had willingly put distance between us. Silence stretched before he looked down and resumed his task. "Let me. I don't want you to get your hands dirty." He'd said that in my last life too. Back then, my heart had soared. Only now, in this second life, did I understand it was nothing more than the soft care of an elder toward a child. I reached out and took the shrimp directly from his fingers. "There's no need. I'll have to get married someday. There are things I need to learn to do for myself." "Get married?" Alistair's voice turned sharp. "You're only 20. 20 isn't a child." I kept my head down, refusing to meet his eyes. "You said yourself you hoped I'd marry soon so I wouldn't always be clinging to you." Those had been his exact words on the day he brought Isabel home. Then, they had shattered me. Now, repeating them felt hollow. The table fell silent again. I ate quietly, then stood. "I'm finished. Take your time." Back in my room, I leaned against the door, drained. Pretending not to care was more exhausting than any heartbreak. My eyes swept the room, the fairy tale books, the dolls from his trips, the diamond necklace from my last birthday. Back then, he'd fastened it around my neck himself. Our Clara is all grown up. In my past life, I had worn that necklace when I confronted him in public. He had ripped it from my neck and thrown it away. "Clara, know your place." A sharp pain lanced through my chest. I pulled out a cardboard box and began to pack away every reminder, books, dolls, gifts, photographs, pushing them deep into the closet. Out of sight, out of mind. A soft knock came. "Clara, are you asleep?" "Not yet." "Do you need something, Dad?" He entered with a glass of milk. "Drink this before bed." "Good night." This, too, was a ritual unchanged for 8 years. I took it but didn't ask him to stay as I once did. "Thank you, Dad. You should rest too." He lingered a moment, as if waiting for something. Then he left. I stared at the milk, walked to the bathroom, and poured it down the drain. The next morning, I came downstairs to find Isabel Thorne at the table, smiling radiantly. "Clara, good morning. Come have breakfast." The woman who had destroyed my life now looked at me as if nothing had happened. I swallowed my hatred and nodded. "Thank you." After a few bites, Isabel spoke. "Clara, a friend of mine has a son, a wonderful young man. How would you feel about meeting him?" Here it comes. The same first move as last time. Then, I had cried and refused to leave Alistair. This time, I said calmly, "Fine. I'd appreciate that, Isabel." The words had barely left my mouth when Alistair set his cup down. "There's no rush. You're still young. I can take care of you for a few more years." "There's no need," I replied softly. "The sooner it happens, the sooner you can have some peace and quiet." The phrase darkened his expression. Isabel quickly slipped her arm through his. "Darling, don't you trust my judgment?" I'd never introduce her to just anyone. Watching them so close, my heart no longer ached. Maybe because I had already lost everything once. "I'm finished," I said. "Just let me know when it's arranged." As I walked upstairs, I heard Alistair's low voice. "Is she angry with me?" Isabel laughed lightly. "You're overthinking it. Clara is finally growing up." Growing up. What an ironic phrase. Last time, I'd been punished for being childish. This time, I was scolded for growing up. 3 days later, the meeting was set. The moment I saw the man across the table, I froze. Julian Vance, the head of the Vance Corporation. Cold, ruthless, and at 30, still unmarried. "Hello. I'm Clara," I said, extending my hand. "Julian Vance." His tone was cool. "I'll be direct. My grandmother is ill. Her only wish is to see me married. I need a wedding within the week. You may state your terms." So direct, it saved time. I thought of the past 8 years, of everything Alistair had spent on me. 100 million settlement, I said. Julian didn't hesitate. "Done. City Hall is still open. Let's go." An hour later, I was married to a man I had just met. Standing on the steps, I stared at the red certificate in my hand, unreality washed over me. "I'll come for you in a week. The funds will be in your account today," Julian said before driving away. Moments later, my phone buzzed. The deposit was there, $100 million. The debt of my upbringing, finally repaid. When I arrived home, Isabel was pacing, furious. "Clara. What is wrong with you? I arranged a meeting, and you didn't show up." "I went," I said simply. "You did? Then why did Mr. Davenport say you never came?" So the man she'd arranged wasn't Julian Vance. Wrong person or not, the money was real. "I must have gone to the wrong place," I said lightly. Isabel was about to argue when Alistair appeared, stern. "You made a promise. Keep it. Arrange another meeting." Isabel's eyes gleamed. "Actually, the Vances are hosting a gala tonight. We could introduce Clara to their younger son." "The younger son?" Alistair frowned. "Leo Vance," Isabel said sweetly. "With Clara's reputation, marrying into the Vance family at all is fortunate." So that was how she saw me, tarnished. I raised my head. "I'm not going. And don't call me for dinner." Behind me, Isabel's mocking voice followed. "See, Alistair? She's throwing a tantrum again." "Let her be," he said flatly. I closed my door and whispered into the silence, "Alistair Blackwood, in this life, who you love, who you marry, it has nothing to do with me anymore." That night, half asleep, I felt someone's arms around me, a familiar voice murmuring a bedtime story. A warm pressure brushed my lips. I jolted awake. Alistair. It had been so long since he'd entered my room. Before I could react, he murmured another name, his voice hoarse with drink. "Isabel." A tremor shot through me. I pushed him away, and he froze, confused. Realization dawned on his face. He stepped back, disoriented. The door burst open. Isabel stood there, tears in her eyes. "Alistair. How could you?" He looked stunned. I was drunk. I thought. Isabel clung to him, trembling. "Tell me this won't happen again." He nodded. "It won't. I'll find another place for Clara to live." As they left, I touched the faint bruise on my neck. The whole scene felt unreal, like a tragic play repeating itself under a different light. How utterly absurd. In the days that followed, I stopped pretending that I was simply a wrong girl with shattered illusions. I let myself feel the cold of the corridor when I slipped past the grand dining room and heard laughter echo behind the heavy doors. I let myself remember, with each step, how I had died. And in this second life, precious and precarious, I resolved that I would not repeat the same mistakes. As dawn broke through the lace curtains, I rose and dressed in quiet determination. The necklace lay on my dresser, its diamonds glinting with the memory of 8 years of being his daughter in name. I didn't fasten it around my neck. Instead, I folded it into its red box, placed it in a drawer, and locked it. The ritual had ended, my past life's token only await now. He would always see me as the girl he took in, I would always see him as the man who saved me. But I would no longer be the child reaching for more. When lunch arrived, I sat across from Alistair Blackwood, watching him carve his steak with his usual composed gravitas. Isabel Thorne sat beside him, as perfectly styled as the society notices predicted. At the sight of her, I felt no jealousy, just a slight, icy resolve. I had accepted the contract with Julian Vance, the swift marriage, the $100 million settlement, the silent payment that said I was no longer beholden to Alistair in the old way. And yet, I had come to realize there was something deeper, something he thought he saw in me that I had misread. Alistair's eyes flicked toward me when the door opened and the butler announced a visitor. The gallery door swung and a tall figure entered, dark hair, composed posture, eyes that scanned the room with an executive calm. Julian Vance? No. Something different. He nodded politely to Alistair and then to me. Mr. Blackwood. His voice was low but carried in the hush of the room. Clara Blackwood? Mr. Grayson, I said. The name surprised me. Colin Grayson, head of Gravitas Capital, a man rumored to buy companies for breakfast and break them for dinner. He smiled just slightly. Thank you for seeing me on such short notice. I registered Alistair's slight furrowed brow. Isabel's raised brow. I kept my voice even. Of course. The man sat. Mr. Vance sent word that he cannot finalize his end of the agreement yet. There are frozen assets in the account. But I represent the interests of the underlying investment firm. If you still wish to move forward, the alternative is to transfer the funds through a private escrow, which we can finalize by midnight tonight. My heart stilled for a moment. The contract was real-time, no longer just a bargaining chip. I glanced at Alistair. His expression was unreadable. Isabel leaned forward, lips pursed. I could almost hear her internal counting of power moves. Yes, I said. That's fine. Let's proceed. I held his gaze, marking the moment. I was not the weak girl from last time. I had weaponized acceptance calmly. Later, when the press release hit, the paper would claim that one of the city's wealthiest single men had purchased the most enviable bride for a week's notice. Isabel's house erupted with manic energy. Champagne popped, guests clinked glasses, waiters hovered. I arrived in a gown of subdued ivory, not the show-stopping satin of last life, but clean, refined, unburdened. I heard whispers, Clara Blackwood, young fortune. Vance indulgence. Alistair waited for me at the bottom of the grand staircase. He nodded, just the slightest tremor in his lips. I told myself it didn't matter anymore. I climbed the steps, side by side with him, albeit in separate worlds. But the twist came that night. The gala in the Vance family's glass and marble hall pressed me into a tight corner of the terrace overlooking the city. The wind carried the hum of traffic and the sharp scent of perfume. Julian, or so I thought, approached, but it was Colin Grayson instead. I believe you expected someone else, he said softly. I stiffened. I think so. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a file, slid it across the marble ledge, my father's signature, many years ago. Alistair Blackwood's signature, on a document transferring guardianship to me. I forced a breath. Then Colin said, I did not buy you. I rescued you. Your settlement with Mr. Vance? It was structured by me, wired through shell companies. That $100 million? It came from Gravitas Capital's trust fund, money I authorized. Because I saw what you once tried to do to Mr. Blackwood in your last life. Shock struck. The crowd inside celebrated. Outside, I faced a truth I had never expected. Colin continued, last time you confronted him publicly. You believed he loved you. You were wrong. But your actions shattered his reputation, forced him to pull away, and ultimately you died. This time I gave you financial freedom, to test whether you would claim your power or reclaim your place. I staggered. My mind raced. The money that felt like a payoff was a cage. The contract with Julian Vance was arranged to push me into the Vance orbit, to make the experiment official. Isabel's anchor? Simply the motion of a wave in Colin's bigger design. And me? I had played the pawn believing I was the queen. Alistair appeared then, behind Colin, his face as hard as any judge's gavel. You betrayed me again, he said gravely. Not because you couldn't love me, but because you believed I would love you more than I could. No one spoke. The winds beat against the glass, the city lights flickered like distant stars. I closed the file, sliding it back to Colin. I didn't believe that any longer. I stepped forward. Turning to Alistair, I said, I never asked for your love last time. I demanded it. And I paid the price. My voice cracked but I held it. This time I came to live. And to let you go. Alistair's eyes glistened. You think that makes me proud? I hope someday. I exhaled. But not now. Then I turned and walked away, past the marble, past the celebration, past the gilded cages of power. Colin's offer still stood, a path into wealth, into strategic marriage, into the network that could dominate industries. But I refused. I would keep the money, but not the illusion. Weeks later, I announced publicly that I would donate the settlement to the orphanage at St. Jude's, rebuild a scholarship fund in Alistair's name, without his endorsement, and move to London to start an independent consultancy for philanthropic ventures. The press screamed about the scandal, the reversal, the billionaire bride who walked away. Isabel's name flashed in society pages as rumors swirled. Alistair stayed silent, his posture straight, his legacy intact. On the evening I boarded the plane, Alistair met me at the gate. He handed me a small velvet box. Inside, a simple silver ring. "For your new life," he said quietly. "No strings." I closed my hand around it. I smiled, not for the girl I had been, but for the woman I had become. And as the plane lifted, the lights of New York fading behind me, I whispered, "Goodbye, Father." "Hello, Clara." Because in this lifetime I wasn't his daughter. I was myself.